Hello and welcome once again to It's My YouTube and I'll blog if I want to. The place where the production values are so high I'm not sure. Yes, my microphone is actually recording this time. Okay, been doing a lot of thinking lately about, I don't know, society in general and the way things have changed over the years and everything, and I remember hearing in every decade, like I didn't pay much attention during the 70s. But you know, oh, it's the 80s. Oh, it's the 90s. And it's like this obsession people seem to have with, because it's this new decade, that oh well, we have to just stay with the times. We have to change everything. It's like, why is it that just because you've changed the calendar, that morals, codes of conduct, things which have benefited society and everybody overall. I mean, I'm not talking about racism or whatever else, because yes, there's been all the different stuff about how racism is bad and everything else. Okay, let's just we're gonna begin things that are actually in fact bad. Alright, fine. I'm glad that those various things have actually been done away with or are working on or whatever else. But where like the early acceptance of homosexual culture, for example, it was like, well, it's the 80s. Why did it have to be because, well, it's the 80s or it's the 90s? Why did the decade it is become the driving force behind accepting gays, having relationships or whatever else, become more important than accepting this because it's a basic human right? When did the calendar become more important than what was right? I mean, I'm seeing a lot of things that, I actually, I found out about this quite recently. Apparently this actually happened about a year ago. But there is a lesbian couple out in the San Francisco Bay Area who has I believe, 9 or 10-year-old son at this point. I think he was 8 at the time of the article, and like I said, this was around August of 2014 is when this actually happened. I've been finally catching up on some of the YouTubers that I watch. Sargon of Akkad has something called This Week in Stupid, and he had talked about a lesbian couple who was raising their 8-year-old son as a transgender, because apparently their adopted son, who has speech difficulties, had to learn sign language at 3 years old. His first sign was, "I'm a girl." And this was, the sure, undeniable sign that, he has gender dysphoria disorder. I'm like, I've encountered 3-year-olds that say they're a fire truck. A friend of mine's 3-year-old, who at the time was 3, this is a couple of years ago, said they were a dog. I think the most interesting one I ever heard actually was a kid said he was a bowl of Jello. Well, parents are they're right now they are currently having hormone blockers administered, and apparently they have actually planned to get gender reassignment surgery for this kid when he hits 11. And I mean, first off, people who know me know that I am a trans ally. I support gay rights, everything, all the other crap. But to actually put forth the idea that a child has the mental capacity and the understanding to make that kind of decision in the face of all of the things that they say children cannot decide. Children cannot consent to sexual activity because they do not have the basic understanding. Which, yeah, I mean, I fully agree with. But the decision to have sex, in the grand scheme of things, is not exactly nearly as complicated as to actually change genders or to discover that they are the other gender. And I mean, I know I'm probably going to get a lot of hate comments, whatever else out of this. I'm going to tell you right now, if you don't like what I'm saying, there's other channels. But I mean, I've been looking at just how society has changed and everything else, and I've had this conversation with a couple people, and they're like, well, that'll never happen, whatever else, when I mention about how it is that when you put forth the idea that a child as young as 2 or 3 years old, as some of the trans advocates have been trying to put forth, when you say a child that young has the mental capacity to actually make this decision, you are opening the door for somebody to come up and say at some point, well, this child, I mean, you see, they can understand gender, and they can understand the far-reaching of this, that, and the other, so of course they can understand how to have sex. Do people not understand? I mean, I was talking to somebody, and they were like, well, that's the slippery slope argument, that's a logical fallacy. It's like, hold on a second. At one point, people tried to say that blacks would not be able to marry whites, that gays would not be able to marry, that women would not be able to vote. All of these things that are now a matter of everyday course, including now gay marriage after the Supreme Court decision. But these things, and people used, like for gay marriage, one of the major arguments that I heard thrown around a lot was, well, at one point, interracial marriage was illegal. And see, people don't seem to understand how it is that when you establish, this point, that it's not hard for somebody to be able to go and make this point. Where, okay, we might not sit there and they might not start off saying, well, children can have sex, but they might sit there and start saying that, well, children should be able to do this, and, well, you see, they can do this, and they can do this, and, well, then they can do this, and, well, and then somebody could even throw in the fact that, well, children can even be charged as adults now for certain crimes, so the fact that we've shown that they have this understanding, and, well, they're held to this level of responsibility, then they should be able to do this. And see, and I mean, I've even tried to tell people, if a child actually does have gender dysphoria, and like I said, I really don't know whether or not you really can reliably say, they do or do not. But if somebody actually has gender identity dysphoria, and, they want to transition, whatever else, that's one thing. But to advocate for this, because it could be that you have a kid who basically is pretty much all around women. Raised by a single mother, she has pretty much all female friends. May even be that most of the kids in his class are female. And if he has low self-esteem or whatever else, then it could be that he thinks he wants to be a girl because he doesn't really understand things or whatever. And like I said, I'm just putting forth, a specific set of whatever. And I realize that, yes, there might be a whole other thing going on. But you sit there and this kid is thinking, well, I want to be a girl because, well, he sees his single mother is strong and powerful or whatever, and he sees the other kids in his class that actually have a mother and a father or whatever, and kind of feel bad about it. Because I remember back in the 80s, it was like, your parents are divorced, and, and it was like, at one point there was a stigma attached to that. Well, sometimes that does show back up again, I know that divorced parents and single parents have kind of become everyday as well, which is in and of itself screwed up. But, and I'll get into the whole thing about how it is that I don't give a damn how bad things are. You need to figure out why it is that you got together in the first place and try to remember that. But the sanctity of marriage and whatever else we get into later. But you might sit there and because of just various factors, he feels ashamed of masculinity or whatever else, and just like I said, that could be one thing that based on the circumstances that this is what he comes to the thought of, and then later on, after various experiences and everything else, realizes, okay, no, this isn't actually what it is that I want, and I just realized where that was coming from. You sit there and you have just different things. It could be that a boy sees the fact that all of the girls seem to get all of the good stuff, so therefore that's what he wants. Just different stuff that until a child actually gets old enough. Like I say, the absolute earliest that I really am comfortable with saying yes, I would say probably minimum 13 when it comes to actually, beginning transition activities and stuff like that, just because by that point, they've had enough time to actually, and the average 13-year-old does at least have a more well-rounded and basic understanding of the world. Yes, and I know you have child geniuses and whatever else and everything else, and you might have a 6-year-old that can speak 17 different languages and knows advanced chemistry and, just self-taught doctorate level physics and whatever the fuck else, okay? We're talking about what your normal, everyday, general kid, thing. By the time most kids are 13, they usually have at least a working understanding of the world. Up to that point, yes, give them whatever emotional support they need or whatever if they're expressing gender dysphoria issues and everything else. But to sit there and, they sit there and say, well, my child just prefers to wear, dresses and whatever else. I prefer to wear a friggin', this weird-looking velvet shirt that, because it looked like the Star Trek uniform, with friggin' pajama pants. Okay? I would have actually worn pajama pants to school had I been able to get away with it. You know, and I mean, we've gotten away from teaching kids how the world works in favor of some utopian progressive socialist dream that it just doesn't work. The world does not work the way it is, and people are going to say that, well, it could if people just would. And it's just, I see the way the world is changing. It used to be that, you know, you get a girl knocked up, and you did the honorable thing. You married her. Because, you know, that's your responsibility now. If she said no, then that was also, it was no longer your responsibility, because that's just the way people were raised to take responsibility. You get a girl pregnant and then you legitimately make the offer of, yes, I'm going to do the honorable thing. And no, she doesn't want to be with you. If she chooses to go on her own, then, you know, then that was it. Child support was for divorce and things like that. You couldn't, you know, you didn't sit there and go get pregnant, decide you don't want to have anything to do with the guy, but you want that check. No, you don't want to be with a guy, then you shouldn't. I'm talking seriously. If you say no, you are not going to get in a relationship with him. You are not going to accept the offer of marriage or whatever else. Then no, you should not be able to try to drain him for everything he can get. You did not take his offer of support, then you should not be able to demand him. It's just, I live by a certain code. By that same token, if I were to meet a woman, she had 7 kids. If I want to be with her, then it is also my those 7 kids then become my responsibility. That's the thing. People, people sit there and they've asked me about my philosophies before, and all they hear about the fact is that if a woman doesn't want to be with a man, then she doesn't need to be with his wallet. And then they're like, oh, whatever else, but they also don't look at the fact that there's the flip side to that, that if you meet a woman and you get into a relationship with her, you don't get into a relationship with just her. When you marry that woman, those kids become yours. That is, you become your responsibility. That is the way honor used to work in the world. You know, now it's like, I mean, it's like there's this my kids got a couple of SpongeBob DVDs, and on one of them there's a preview for Red Hot Dance or something like that. I can't remember what the actual name of it is, but up in New York there was a ballroom dancing competition for, for like all the schools. You know, like friggin' 600 kids ultimately entered or whatever. You know, I can't remember how many it was, but it was a ballroom dancing. And, at one point during the thing, the guy who was actually the, coordinator of the event and everything else talked about, it's like, there is no second place, there is no third, there is one challenge trophy. Which, you have a dance competition. The winner gets the trophy. And during the preview, you actually hear one of the teachers sit there. Well, I mean, I don't like hard competition. And in the context of what they were talking about, it's not that they don't like difficult competition. They don't like a competition in which there is a winner and there are losers. You don't find many competitions now in schools where there is the winner and maybe second and third place. Now, everybody gets a trophy because, for participating. I've actually seen the winner gets, a trophy. The little person with the wings and the little, holding up the wreath, about a foot tall. But then, like, the kid who got kicked out in the first round because he couldn't spell cat gets this 3-pillar trophy with their name engraved on it. Good job, participant. While their name and everything. While the winner just gets winner regional spelling bee. I see how the world has changed, and it dismays me. It used to be that, like I said, you get a girl knocked up, and you married her. It used to be that you got hired on with a company, and you pulled 20, 30 years, got a gold watch and retirement package. We used to honor work. We used to honor effort. We used to honor people doing something. Now we got people who actually, they're told to train the new people, and finding out, that they're training their replacements because everybody that's coming in for these training sessions is going to be going back over to India to run the outsourced call center. I've been doing a lot of thinking about life in general and all, and just so many things that just I hadn't really thought about. That being a father, it really makes you think. You take a look at how the world was, back when I was a kid. We had laws in place that kept jobs in America. You had to about piss in the supervisor's Cheerios to get fired. But the American work ethic used to be about you got hired on, you worked in, you built your way up in the company, and that mindset carried over into everything else. You took care of your family. Kids, hell, we had spanking back when I was a kid, and, if a parent was actually abusive or whatever else, it got dealt with. But it was a way that we knew when we had crossed the line, when we had gone too far and screwed up. And it was a very quick and effective reminder of where the rules began and ended. That there were consequences for our actions. I remember when they used to have commercials come on that sit there and said, "It's 10:30, do you know where your children are?" And you better be damn sure if you did not know where your children were at 10:30 at night. We used to be able to go out and play Go down to the park. Take off like during the summertime. Take off at 7 o'clock in the morning. Show up friggin' 8:30 at night. Maybe stop back by the house, take a piss. At some point during the day. But there wasn't all of this miasma of fear. I mean, you don't realize how many times I've seen things in the media. Perverts behind every bush. What? These people weren't around back in the 70s and 80s? They just, we get the internet and suddenly there's perverts everywhere. I'm like, wow, where were all these perverts back in the 70s and 80s hiding behind every bush to kidnap children that now, if you let your kid walk unsupervised to a public park less than a mile from your house, next thing you know, there's a fucking knock on your door and child services is sitting there wanting to do an evaluation because your child was unsupervised. I've read articles about people who had friggin' child services called because their kids showed up at the house after school and the parent was running late and the kid was out in the backyard playing for the 30 minutes that it took for the parent to get home. Because they were running late. Playing in their own backyard that was fenced in and secure. And it was not only felt necessary to call Child Protective Services, but it was actually felt by the public at large that this was an acceptable action. That calling Child Protective Services because children are playing unsupervised in their fenced-in own backyard. Got Anita Sarkeesian, professional fucking victim. Everything is racist, everything is sexist. It's your job to point it out. When the hell did we go from a country that valued ethics, that valued hard work and accomplishment, that had rules, that had things in place where children were not allowed to watch porn because it was something that they were not mentally equipped to handle, to major corporations, rather than paying a living wage, are telling their employees how to apply for food stamps, and people are actually giving out parenting awards because they are encouraging their children to become the opposite gender. How did we go from children do not have the capacity to understand these things, so therefore they are protected from this until they actually learn and then are allowed to make the decisions, to saying a 4-year-old has the capacity to choose a gender? And I know, people are going to sit there, what is he talking about? He's jumping from this, that, and the other and everything. It's because there are all of these things that are just so screwed up. All of these things that everybody's caught up in what they want, what they're concerned with, or whatever else, that nobody thinks and sees what is going on, how many things have changed to bring where we are. Friggin' Barack Obama, Muslim in chief, You know, you take a look at all of the things that he's done that have been in blatant violation of the Constitution. And then he wants to sit there and talk about, well, I've been treated differently because of my race. You're right, motherfucker, because a white man would have been impeached and friggin' prosecuted by now. But here we are, and see, this is actually relevant because Barack Obama wasn't voted in because of his qualifications, because of his platform. They voted for a characteristic. They voted for the feel-good thing. And now Hillary Clinton, who, after our ambassador to Malaysia, if I remember correctly, was brutally raped, she then had a State Department dinner with the Malaysian Prime Minister, and not a single fucking syllable asking about, hey, what is going on? Are you actually investigating what happened? What goodwill gesture is your country going to make for the fact that our ambassador was nearly killed in a sexual assault? People are sitting there and they're celebrating and want to support Hillary because she's a woman. People voted for Barack Obama because he was black. Not because of his qualifications. They voted for this brand new thing. They voted for the first. And we saw how that turned out. Record unemployment. He's amassed more debt during his presidency than every other president combined. Yeah, Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act. People sit there and they talk about how all of these things, these other countries, socialized medicine over there and everything else. Well, if you also notice that a lot of these countries that have a working socialized medicine, working socialized this, that, and the other and everything, also have basically no private industry with those things. A lot of the countries that did the socialized everything got rid of the private industry. It was absorbed into the government, it was bought out, whatever else, so that way there was the socialized system. You cannot have a socialized anything in a free market country. It doesn't work, because then you're sitting there and you're having to jack up the costs and everything else in the socialized thing so that the private industry doesn't lose out. Now you have people looking to vote for the first again. First woman president. The woman who, as the head of the State Department, after being ordered by the federal government to turn over emails and documentation that by law she is supposed to have retained and was mandated by law to turn over, wiped her email server after receiving and confirming the order to turn over the emails. Woman who has been shown through verified external sources to have been the orchestrator of all the crap that happened in Benghazi. A woman who has demonstrated a willingness and, in fact, eagerness to sacrifice security of our military, of our very country, for her personal gain. And this is the one that some of you want. Let me point something out to you. You want to sit there, and a lot of people were sitting there and were actually asked, why are you going to vote for Hillary? Well, because she's a woman. It's like, so what about her qualities? What about her qualifications? What about her positions? Well, I mean, we should have a woman in office. It's like, you're going to vote for her because of her gender, for nothing more than the fact that she is a woman. Yet, if I was to say that I was going to vote for, if I was going to vote for West, or if I was going to vote for Trump because they were a man, then that would be a sexist statement. Yet, to say that you're going to vote for Hillary based solely on the fact nothing more than she's a woman? How did we become such hypocrites? When did the double standard become the standard? You know what, I mean, I can't wait to see what responses I get out of this stuff. I guess actually probably something I should have mentioned, I don't know, in earlier episodes or whatever else. And I'll probably mention this at the beginning of my next video. But don't take my videos as one, message. I end up talking about a lot of various things. I don't know, I guess this is my rant box. I haven't really gotten around to really taking a look at where I'm going to go with my blogging and everything else. I keep saying I'm going to everything, but then more things end up pissing me off. I mean, I don't know, something needs to change in this country. I don't know what, because all the things that have been changing ain't been working. Yeah. But, all you guys, do yourselves a favor. Don't take my videos as a coherent message in terms of, well, he was saying this and then he was saying this, and because no, it's a lot of the things that I'm saying, I see where the various parts of it connect, because I'm looking at things as the whole. And a lot of the things that, it takes too long to explain some of the stuff going on in my head right now. And I guess that's part of why I'm just kind of doing, I guess free association rants at this point. But it's just, I mean, also another thing, because, like, I'm actually getting ready to, start my costuming builds and everything else that I've been talking about, but now I've finally got at least something of a working setup going. And I guess just all the different stuff going on, I guess this is mostly just kind of like clearing out the mental closet, so that way I can focus on the things that are more important right now, or should I say more directly important and vital. But go back over this video and listen to each of the things that I'm saying. In the video, everything from all the stuff with the trans issues, everything to the decline of this country and all. And I want to actually see if there's any sort of intelligent thought left in this friggin' country. And hell, if you stuck to this entire video, you're probably the kind of people I'm looking for, but if you can figure out how to post a video response, please do so. But I want you to tell me what you think about some of the things that I've said. And I am willing to debate anybody who decides they got the sack enough to actually come up against me on it. And by debate, I do not mean us sitting here talking and then insults get flown. I'm talking actually discussing the various crap. Keep the fucking emotions out of it. And actually, we present our opinions. Present the justifications and defense of our positions. And keep the insults the hell out of it. If you agree with me, then hey, we can actually have a dialogue about, what the thing. Or if you disagree with me, then I welcome anybody who decides that they can try to change my mind. And when I say try to change my mind, I do not mean harangue me into caving. I mean actually explaining your position and being able to think. Now, there are certain things you're not going to change my mind on, because a lot of my stuff, like why it is I think that children should have to wait before transitioning and everything else, is based solely on protecting the kids. There are certain things that I don't budge on. And certain things that, like, while it may seem like an asshole for saying that, I think that no, we should not allow toddlers and anybody under 13 or 16 to begin transition, is because I do not want there to stand a chance of child molesters and pedophiles to take that line of reasoning that a child is now able to understand enough about the world to say, hey, I'm a different gender and a purple dog, to now open up the door for them to say that same kid can make the decision to suck a fucking dick. And if that's the kind of thing that you are willing to open up the door for, then I want to talk to you. I want somebody with the fucking sack to actually come on in a friggin' live stream, Skype, whatever else, and to actually say that they are comfortable with the concept of somebody deciding later on down the road to be able to formulate a defensible argument and get the friggin' brain-dead, vacuous, short attention span, living by the politics of the soundbite social justice fucking warriors, to agree later on that, oh, toddlers can have sex because they can understand everything in the world. If you motherfucking think that it is worth the risk of somebody coming out and saying a toddler can go out and be a hooker just so that you can feel good about little Billy can be a transvestite if he wants to now because he's only 2 years old and he likes pink. If you really want to sit there and are willing to jeopardize in the slightest way the safety of a child because your social agenda is more important than the possible fallout, I want to talk to you. Well, anyway, thank you for continuing to watch, and have a nice day. Oh, and by the way, I said I was going to mention one of the YouTubers named V. I put an open challenge that I was going to debate him on certain issues. I think he and I may actually end up saying a lot of the same things because I watched a little bit further into the video after I made the comment about challenging him to the debate, and kind of find that I think we both actually agree with Thunderfoot. So, but anyway, if he's wanting to friggin' debate, hey, let's go for it. Anyway, have a nice day, people.